Hello everyone, this is Bobby here, and I made a video introduction of what I am about to do, or what my videos are going to be about, and they will be about Game of Thrones television series, but I'm also going to add in information from the book to give viewers some background information or some just information for them to discover that they didn't get from the television series. But if you're reading the book and also watching the television series, then this video may be for you as well, because it just might be interesting to get a different perspective. And I might have to do these in 2 different parts for each review, for each episode, because YouTube only gives me 15 minutes per video, which I think is bullshit. So, let's get on with it. So this is episode 1 of season 1 of Game of Thrones. This episode is called Winter is Coming. And first we start off with 3 members of what is called the Night Watch, and they show a giant wall which is basically separating the north from the south. And this kingdom that we're about to be introduced to in this land, in this world, is the kingdom of the 7 kingdoms, is roughly the size of South America, which is said by George R.R. Martin, the author. And these men of the Night Watch are looking for something, and one of them stumbles upon bodies that have been dismembered and just completely cut in half and laid upon the snowy ground. And this is pretty much the way it is in the book, like most of the show. It is very well written and produced, the television series, and I'm sure George R.R. Martin being one of the writers makes a huge difference. But anyway, so when one of the members goes back to tell the so-called leader of the group, who kind of looks like Matt Damon's younger brother, it's very strange, doesn't believe him, but they go back to the scene and the bodies are gone. And the guy, the leader, is giving the other 2 shit for being scared and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden something rises behind him, and it turns out to be some type of half-decayed body with extremely blue eyes, and you just see it cut. And obviously it killed the leader guy, but then you see the other 2 guys, there are 3 of them all together, you see the other 2 guys running away. And one of them gets cut down, and the other one, during the next scene, is seen running. Obviously he's out of the woods, and he's running in a land called Winterfell. And this is the scene where you're introduced to the Stark family, and the Starks are like a great family. They're very noble and honorable, and the area in which they hail from, Winterfell, is pretty much like a Highland Scotland scenery. It's very rugged, and you have to be tough to live in it, but it's very beautiful in my opinion. So you're introduced to the Stark kids. There's I consider them 6 in total, but technically it's 5 Starks and 1 I hate calling him a bastard child because I hate that, but Jon Snow. Anyway, there's 5 children. There is Robb Stark, who is the oldest. And then there is should be Jon Snow, and then there's Sansa. Then there is Arya. And then there's Brandon, and then there's Rickon. The oldest is about 15 or 16 years old, and Rickon, the youngest, is about 6 years old. So they seem like good kids. They seem like they have a good life. They're happy, and life is good. So actually I'm sorry, I never introduced these characters. Eddard Stark and Catelyn Stark, husband and wife. Ned Stark, Eddard Stark, or Ned for short, is the Warden of the North, which is Winterfell is the northern area of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros. Westeros is the area, just as the United States is the United States. Westeros is Westeros of that kingdom. He's brought the news about the deserter of the Night Watch, and apparently with the Night Watch, if you desert and if you leave your post and you abandon the wall, the sentence is death, a death sentence. So, so you can tell that Ned Stark is a good man. He's not a violent person, really. He can be violent if he wants to, but he's an honorable person. He's noble. He does not want to shed blood, but if he has to, he will. But he's not an evil person, and he doesn't like killing. So, next scene, they're bringing the deserter, who was in the first scene, to the chopping block, pretty much, and he's talking about the White Walkers that he saw. Nobody really believes him, and he's just ranting about it, and he's saying that he saw what he saw, and Ned unsheathes his longsword, which isn't mentioned in the television series, but it's good to note that in the book we find this out, that the longsword is called Ice. Every great sword in history in that world has a name, and that sword is Ice. And it's made out of Valyrian steel, which Valyrian steel is a very strong and probably the best types of metal to use for a blade. Very sharp. So he ends up decapitating the member of the Night's Watch, and Bran is the second youngest son has to watch, because he needs to kind of understand what death is all about and what happens to people who break their word. And not in a mean way, he just has fought, and Ned wants his son to be kind of just prepared for the world. And Brandon does watch, he doesn't look away. And Ned says to Brandon, as he says in the book, that this isn't word for word, but he does say that those who sentence someone to death must be the one to swing the sword, or pretty much it means like deal the punishment. So I thought that was interesting and pretty cool about Ned. He's a good guy and he's honorable. Ned, he's a good guy. So in the next scene, they stumble across a dead elk or a stag on their path. And what's my cat doing? Anyway, they stumble across a dead elk, and then eventually they stumble across what the viewers think is just a wolf, but it's huge. And one person says that it's a freak in Ned's group, which is noted that the person that says that, the guy that handed Ned the great sword, or the long sword to Ned to decapitate the deserter, his name is Theon Greyjoy. Theon Greyjoy. And he says that the wolf is a freak, but Ned says no, it's a direwolf. And direwolves are supposed to be on the northern part of the wall, which just means that strange times are upon us. And so they eventually find five baby direwolves, and Ned Stark said, why don't we should just kill them right now and give them a clean death rather than them suffering alone. And what I thought was weird is that Theon Greyjoy was just like, okay, and he just grabs one of the puppies and he's about to stab it in the neck with a dagger. And I'm sitting there like, who the hell, even if they're commanded to, but who the hell is so eager to kill, and I'm going to say it, cute and adorable puppies? I said it, I don't care. Who would be so quick to do something like that? I was just like, oh, what the fuck. But thankfully, Jon Snow sees the wisdom behind this and says, there are 5 direwolves, and there are 5 Stark children, and the direwolf is this house sigil of House Stark. And so Ned allows the children to keep them, which I thought was awesome. So then we're brought to a scene where apparently someone's having a kind of like a mass, or like a funeral type of thing going on in a giant cathedral, and it's like it's beautiful and everything. The sets are well done in this television show, just as I would picture them from the books. And so apparently a gentleman named Jon Arryn has died, and he was the right hand of the king, which is pretty much like the second in command of the king. And so in that scene you're introduced to 2 characters, Cersei and Jaime Lannister, brother and sister. Lannister is their last name. They're brother and sister, and they're discussing something about a secret that Jon Arryn must have found out about, and Cersei is like extremely worried about, but Jaime's just like, he's dead, don't worry about it, it's gone. So the next scene is Catelyn, Ned's wife, going into the Godswood, which is what the area is called, where Ned is sharpening his sword, Ice, and he's sitting in the Godswood, which is a place to prayer, and it's like a nice, like, beautiful area with a pond and like a nice giant white tree with red leaves, and it's a cool area. And Catelyn brings him the news that Jon Arryn has died, and Ned is very upset about this news. It said that Jon Arryn was like a father to Ned, which was in the book. And she also tells him that the king and his company, meaning the queen and everyone else, are riding north to Winterfell to see Ned. And they're upset about that, both of them, because they know the right hand of the king is dead, and Robert Baratheon, the king, who is coming up to the Winterfell, is a great friend of Ned, so he's very worried, along with Catelyn. So the next scene is the king arriving, which isn't said in the television series, but in the book it's 1 month has passed. Actually, no, the queen actually mentions it, or actually bitches to her husband, the king, about it being a 1 month journey, but it kind of doesn't really, you don't really think about it that much when you're watching a television series, or think about it. But I'm trying not to say that much too, so I apologize if I say a lot. So right when Robert gets there, the king is Robert Baratheon. Right when he gets there, he greets Ned and his family. He's happy. He's very jolly. He's a big husky guy with a big belly, bearded, exactly how they describe him in the book. And he's great friends with Ned. And right when he gets to Winterfell, he asks to be led down to the crypts. And Cersei, even in the book, she says that we should wait until you go do such things, like it's been a long ride. But he decides to go down into the crypt anyway, which is where we find out that Ned Stark had a sister named Lyanna, who was killed. We're not really told how, but is killed. And Robert Baratheon was deeply in love with her. So this was before he married Cersei. Excuse me. And in the book, he's a lot more upset when he's at the crypt than he is in the television show. He's angry and he's very sad, because apparently the last king who ruled the 7 kingdoms was the Mad King, Aerys Targaryen II. But right now I'm getting to 15 minutes of my video, so I'm gonna have to start a new video, part 2. So if you please join me there, I'd greatly appreciate it. Please comment below. Thank you so much for watching part 1.